I know you're out and about today with the Book Barge bike. Can you tell us where you are and what you've been doing?
Yes, I'm in the Peak District this weekend at a vintage bicycle festival. It's called La Roica Britannia. It's usually in Italy, actually. It's held annually in Italy, but it's in England for the first time. And I'm selling books from a bike. It's like a 1940s butcher baker delivery bike with a big metal front basket. So I can fit about 50 books in. So it's a very tiny bookshop on wheels today.
And have you managed to sell many books today?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been really busy. So yeah, very pleasing.
That's brilliant because I know you wrote about in your book you wrote about when you cycled to Hay-on-Wye, and actually that I found that quite interesting because I went on holiday there earlier this year, so we didn't time it to coincide with any festivals, unfortunately, but we did have a
Okay.
nice look around. It's a lovely little place. And,
Yeah, this time it's a bit more laid back because that time we're cycling from Cardigan Bay to the coast to Hay-on-Wye. So it's over 4 days, I think it took 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, quite.
And there were lots of mountains in the way. This is just kind of wheeling around a festival. Yeah, much more chilled out and easier on the legs.
Brilliant. I mean, in terms of the barge as well, because you're currently docked at Barton Marina, and obviously your book was kind of your adventures as you went around the country. But
yeah, left there and came back. Yeah.
What do you think of Barton Marina as a place? Is there a particular reason you chose there?
Well, at the time when I set the book barge up, I was living really close by, so about 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
So it just seemed a really convenient place to moor the boat, and it has the advantage, that marina in particular, of being all set up for sort of retail already. So there's pubs there, there's shops along the promenade, there's a cinema there now as well. So it gets quite a good footfall. So in terms of like canal network stops, it's pretty good.
And I suppose it's a bit different to when you went to Bristol and you found out you weren't actually allowed to trade there as well. So
yeah. So when I set up in Barton, I was kind of like had no intention of moving it at all. So I didn't really look into sort of the possibility of trading in different places. And when I got to Bristol, I realised it's not under British Waterways as it was jurisdiction. It's under, I think it's Port of Bristol Authority. So yeah, there were problems with trading and health and safety and
all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
So in terms of the book, the bookshop that floated away, when did you decide to write the book, and did you have a publisher in mind already when you started, or?
No, not at all. I didn't think it would be picked up by a publisher. I did a 6-month trip with a boat to try and promote it because it would have closed otherwise.
Yeah.
And I was writing sort of blog posts as I went. And when I got back, actually, I thought, again, the shop did really well for like a couple of weeks, and then it thrived on the novelty value. So once people were used to it being back again, I thought I'm going to be in the same situation as I was before I set off. So I turned some of the blog posts into book chapters, and I was just doing like a PayPal donate thing at the bottom and saying, if you've enjoyed reading this, just give us a few pennies. And after 4 of these chapters, the publisher got in touch, which was brilliant, and said, do you fancy turning it into an actual published print book?
Oh, that's great then. I mean, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was, how bloggers and social media have helped you to get the word out. And I know you mentioned it a bit in the book as well. But I wondered if you could, kind of cover that up.
They've been absolutely invaluable. Social media, I was so skeptical of to begin with. I'm like a bit of a technophobe.
Yeah.
And I only set the Twitter account up for the book barge about 2 weeks before I set off. And actually, it was a total lifesaver. So followers were retweeting like where I was and what I needed that day, because I was swapping stock as I went for showers and meals and things. So yeah, I don't think it would have been orchestrated as well if I just relied on sort of sending press releases to local newspapers, or actually I don't know how else I would have done it without bloggers and social media.
Yeah, makes sense. And as well, so with the barge, and I'm sure this is something you're quite passionate about, but do you think that kind of having that USP of having the barge is something like that will help booksellers of the 21st century to kind of compete against sort of Amazon and Waterstones?
Yeah, it's all about the experience now, because I don't think many independent bookshops can compete on price with Amazon and supermarkets.
Yeah.
So you have to give a really good shopping experience to customers. So yeah, if people enjoy the novelty of stepping aboard a boat, I know kids especially enjoy it. Yeah, then it helps in that way. Same today, like people are just really excited about seeing a bicycle bookshop and just taking pictures and tweeting and putting them on Instagram and stuff. So yeah, you have to give them something to get excited about as well as the book, I think.
And I suppose in terms of that, because you're kind of notorious for your love of, is it Victoria sponge cakes? Is trying to remember
I love Victoria sponge
which
cake.
type of cake. But you've always
Victoria sponge.
yeah, well, you always have sort of a cake going, and you offer people tea when they come in, and
yeah, I do free tea and cake. Yeah, I just think it's nice. I kind of want people to linger a bit and spend more time browsing. I think that's where you get the sales anyway. But it's also nice, selfishly for me, just to have people to talk to, like-minded people to talk to. So
yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, and I suppose that's one thing that, again, the big booksellers can't offer. Particularly, say Amazon, you can't go to Amazon and have a cup of tea and read through the pages.
Amazon certainly can't. No, a completely different experience. I mean, obviously they've got their strengths of the price competitiveness and just next day delivery and stuff like that.
Well, I suppose you can't stock as many books as Amazon as well. What with having a sort of a small barge.
Yeah, that works both ways. I mean, a lot of people are disappointed by the small stock, but I also think you can curate the shop a lot.
Yeah, well, that's
a lot better with a lot more thought.
That's something.
So I feel like I can really sell every single book on there. They just all feel familiar, and I live on the boat as well, so I can see them all the time.
That's something I was interested in as well, because I wondered how do you decide which books to stock?
I'm the worst bookseller to ask this. I just choose ones I like. Hope that my enthusiasm for them sort of captures when customers walk in. I have a few regular customers who come in and I'll order stuff for them, but it's stuff that I'm curious about or enjoy.
That makes sense. And in terms of actually getting a chance to read, do you get more of a chance to read kind of now that you're running the barge than when you used to be working in London?
No, no, unfortunately. I think people assume if you work in a bookshop you can just sit and read all day, and I did, and that was one of the pulls towards setting up a shop in the first place. But it's really hard to, because people will keep walking in and kind of interrupting the flow. So yeah, I don't read as much as I used to as when I had a 9-to-5 journalism job, which is really sad. I do pick up a lot more.
You get surrounded by books, and they're just tempting you as well, I suppose, aren't they? But in terms of when you do get a chance to read, one question we ask everybody is, what was the last book you read, and what did you think of it?
I'm reading at the moment Swimming Studies by Leanne Shapton, who's a brilliant author. She's an author and artist. I can't remember the title of the first book. It's a really long one. Yeah. But she also did one more recently called Was She Pretty? And it was like just sort of, it's talking about her relationship with her boyfriend and all his exes who she was sort of slightly jealous of without meeting them, just sort of from hearsay. And so she'd drawn pictures of what she imagined them to be like. It's just a really quirky, lovely book. And Swimming Studies talks about her, it's kind of her memoirs of when she used to be a competitive swimmer, went to the Olympic trials for the Canadian swimming team, and then became an author and artist. And it just sort of reflects on her time as a swimmer and what she's doing now in a really sort of beautiful way.
Cool, that sounds awesome. So you've got one thing that when I visited you, I love the fact that you've got Napoleon Bunny part. And I wondered, are there plans to take on any more sort of animal shipmates? And
no, Napoleon Bunny part has put me off animal shipmates for life. I think he destroys about 10% of my stuff every week through nibbling.
What made you decide
and also
to get
actually
him
a dog today weed against some of my books at this festival.
No.
I cut off animals.
Swatting at him, trying to get him away.
Did you say what made me get him in the first place?
Yeah.
I think it was just the fact that I wanted company. So when I was moving around the country, it's a bit of a lonely thing. You do meet a lot of people along the way, but there's really long stretches where you're just at the tiller outside on your own. And I just like the thought of having some kind of companion that wasn't human, just something there. So, and he is brilliant for that.
Because I found that interesting as well. Because when I've read your book already. I read it on my way to work during the week.
Thank you.
But one of the things I found kind of interesting there is it does sound kind of quite glamorous in the daytimes when you're going around and you're meeting people, but it must be horrible kind of in the evenings if it's if it's raining and you're there by yourself.
Oh yeah. There's nothing worse than a rainy day on the canal.
How did you keep your spirits up?
Well, they kind of fluctuated.
Yeah.
Really up and down along the way. So yeah, but actually going back to social media and blogging, that was a huge help in keeping spirits up, because there's nothing better than when you are feeling a bit low and then you turn on the computer and there's like a nice message waiting for you, or like a really encouraging email. So yeah, that helps a lot.
So I guess one thing I wondered as well, have you got any more writing left in you in terms of sort of write more books, or will you take it how it goes?
I don't know if I can inflict my writing on anyone else anymore. I'd quite like to do a kid's story, I think. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. I've sort of half started one.
We have to keep us updated with that.
But I think there's a limited market for dung beetle children's stories, but we'll see.
And in terms of the future of the book barge, have you got any plans that you can tell us about?
Yes, I'm taking it to France actually next spring.
Are you? I know you've wanted to do that for a while, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been desperate to do it, and I've been trying to figure out like a reason or excuse to. And last summer I found a really, really cheap sort of building in Burgundy. It was £15,000, which seems ridiculous. It comes with a plot of land and a well, and it's on the canal, more importantly.
Yeah.
But yes, I don't think my book barge wages will ever be enough to buy a house over here, so that seemed like to make sense, and to tick the going to France box as well. So
how are you?
We go there, live on the boat, do up the house, and then hopefully turn it all into one big bookshop destination. I don't know if that'll work, but
logistically, how do you even get a boat to France? Are you going to take it across the channel? Are you going to brave it, or?
I really, really want to take it across the channel. It has been done a few times. They're not the most stable things. You have to wait for a calm day, and you need hopefully sort of like some ex-merchant navy type to go with you and pluck your course and try and avoid the P&O ferries bearing down on you. But yeah, it is possible, and I kind of think that's what I want to do.